3, 2, 1. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On tonight's show, I have a very special guest that comes to us from the UK. His name is Chris Spivey. He's the proprietor of www.chrisspivey.org, spelled CHRISSPIVEY.org. He has just published a book last month. The title of the book is The Filthy Rich. It's available on Amazon, on Kindle. I highly recommend the book. I just finished it yesterday. It's a very aptly titled book talking about mainly the kind of political elite in the UK, and we're going to get into that. He's also published a number of other books, some on similar subjects. Some are fiction, some are nonfiction. One of that looks interesting to me is Meghan Markle Uncovered. Another is Monsters, Inc., or Monsters in the Palace. Another title is The Conspiracy Files. And there are a few fictional books, but never mind the Sex Pistols, Here's the Bollocks, and The Great Cock and Bull Swindle. So, Chris Spivey, are you there?
I am, Bill, yes. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for agreeing to the interview. Congratulations on the book. For people who don't know your background, I know that I've read some of your articles over the last decade. You definitely have covered a bunch of interesting topics. So for people who don't know of your background, can you talk a little bit about yourself and then kind of lead up to the publication of the book, The Filthy Rich, please?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not from an academic background, Bill. I used to be in the building trade. I had my own building company. But without going into too much detail, I had to take on my baby daughter when she was 6 months old, so I had to close that down. And I've been tattooing at that stage for a number of years. So tattooing, the hours of tattooing suited me a lot better with my baby daughter to look after. So I became a tattooist for 18 years. And then one time I saw this the Southern Independent newspaper, the biggest independent newspaper in Southern Ireland, and they were asking for contributors. So I wrote in. I've always done quite a bit of writing, and they said, write a 1,000-word article on something current. So I wrote about the London riots, the 2011 London riots, and they said, yeah, welcome aboard. So I was with them for 6 or 7 months, and then I had my own website built, and sort of went freelance from there.
Gotcha. So the website is chrisspivey.org. You have tons of articles and information. And so I take it that you've covered some of the topics on your website that are included in the book, The Filthy Rich. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit what inspired you or why you wanted to write this book?
Well, like you say, a lot of it's covered on my website over the years, and it's just an accumulation of them works, Bill, right up to sort of present, from 2012 to 2020, or late 2019. Just about stuff that I've read about,
And, I mean, you kind of go into all these famous people. I mean, here where Woody Allen has just published his memoirs, and, you're writing. I didn't know how deep the investigation into Woody Allen really was until I read through your book. I didn't know that, they almost...
And he used his money to suppress it, didn't he?
Yeah, he sure did. So he got...
The details of which are in the book. I mean, it's like all of these rich people who are paedophiles, they use super injunctions to keep it out of the press, and they throw millions of dollars to dig up the dirt on their accusers to silence them, and that's exactly what Woody Allen did. Apart from he didn't silence everybody.
Well, that's true, but one of the fascinating things that you brought up is he had the investigators investigated, which I don't. Yeah.
Exactly, and I say, that's what they're using their money for, isn't it? And they're getting away with it all the time. And the more money you have, the more you can get away with. And these people are getting away with everything. I mean, just the sheer fact that we're talking about his stepdaughter, and you got to ask yourself, why isn't Woody Allen allowed to see his kids? Okay, the oldest one at the time, we're saying 12 or 13 or whatever, certainly old enough to make up his own mind, and he refused to see Woody Allen, and the younger ones, they were the court refused him access to them. Right. So if he was as innocent as he claims, why would the courts refuse him access to his kids?
Right. Like
they only do that if there's something serious in the background there.
Yes, agreed. Yes. And he's just one of many people you talk about, like Roman Polanski, Elvis Presley, Steven Tyler. Yeah.
Once again, Roman Polanski, he was known as a paedophile back in the 1960s when he started. I mean, the Charles Manson thing, I don't know what your views on that, but a lot of people, and there's a lot of evidence, suggest that he was a psyop. And of course, Polanski was married to Sharon Tate, and many still believe that Sharon Tate never really died. She was just replaced by her, air quotes, sister, who looks exactly like her,
Fascinating. I mean...
Polanski, he used to hang about with Samantha Cameron, David Cameron, the ex-Prime Minister of the UK. He used to hang about with her mother. And she's married to an Astor, Michael Astor, who was the son of the man embroiled in the Profumo affair. 1962 Christine Keeler scandal.
For people in the States who don't know about the Profumo affair, can you talk about that and talk about the kind of black magic and occult aspects of that?
Absolutely can. I mean, there's quite a bit to it. But what it basically was the prostitute who has since admitted that she was working for the security services, Christine Keeler. She was shagging John Profumo, who was the Ministry of War at the time, and tipped to be a future Prime Minister. And while she was hopping in bed with him, she was also hopping in bed with a Russian attaché who was also a spy for the Russians. And there was a big drama about this because they were worried about, pillow talk and secrets being exposed. Anyway, it was said that Christine Keeler and friend Mandy Rice Davis, who also appeared before and who has also admitted to being a British spy, was supposedly being run by a society osteopath called Stephen Ward. Now, Stephen Ward lived on the Astor family estate in a cottage, and he was very much into the occult and Satan worship. So much so that there was supposedly, after he left the cottage, the Astors had to get a priest in to do an exorcism of the place. Now, I don't necessarily believe that because I believe the Astors themselves are devout Satanists,
Interesting.
But that is the official story. And that's the Profumo affair. It brought down just about brought down the British government, Conservative Party at the time. And they never recovered the next election. They lost, and Labour got in.
Right, and Profumo himself was part of this strange group of filthy rich people that meet called the Bullingdon Boys Diners Club. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a very exclusive club that you have to be asked to be joined, and it's only open to scholars at Eton. David Cameron was also one. In fact, more or less everybody who was ever in the government was a Bullingdon boy at one time or other. And they're basically just a bunch of posh thugs, really. The initiation is you burn a £50 note in front of a homeless person and whatnot, and go to dinner and smash the restaurants up, and also their filthy parents pay for all the damage and whatnot.
Right, and I mean, the one of the barriers to entry is you have to spend a significant amount of money to just get a proper attire, right?
Oh, there was thousands of pounds worth just for the coat alone, which is a long tail coat, like they used to wear in the early 1900s. Yeah, I don't think it's by invite only. It's the same sort of thing as Skull and Bones over there.
Gotcha.
Over in your neck of the woods.
Right, but they meet and they have all kinds of weird stuff, but generally it's like a drinking club, but they know they're going to destroy stuff, and they have like funds already set aside to pay off their kind of breaking of all these restaurants, right?
That's it, mate. Yeah, they're just thugs, really.
Yeah. And Boris Johnson was a member, who is currently the Prime Minister. John Perfumo, and there was
the Boris Johnson's on caught on tape giving a fellow called Darius Guppy. Now Darius Guppy had spent time in prison for he tried to commit a fraud over in New York, as it happens, which involved stealing a lot of jewellery. He had a lot of jewellery delivered to a hotel they were staying in. Don't forget, we're talking about very rich people here. Guppy family, that's where the Guppy fish comes from. They were fish breeders. And he had a load of jewellery delivered to his hotel room, and then tried to make out that they'd been robbed. And of course they hadn't been, and he got 5 years prison for that. Now, he was the best man, Earl Spencer, Princess Diana's brother's wedding. And they also had a fisticuff fight because Guppy tried to seduce, Earl Spencer tried to seduce Guppy's wife while he was in prison. But nevertheless, Darius Guppy was a good friend of Boris Johnson, who, as he said, is current Prime Minister of England over here. And Guppy asked him to get the name and address of a reporter who'd been bad-mouthing him in the press, so as he could have him beaten up. Now, Boris Johnson wasn't worried about being asked for the name and address. He was worried about being found out. But yeah, he gave it to him. So that's the kind of man that we have as Prime Minister. Someone who's prepared to give the name and address for someone so they can go and buy his arms.
Wow, and also there was like a subset of the Bullingdon Boys Diners Club called the Piers Gaveston Society.
Gaveston Society, yes, yeah. Now, this is the kinky wing of it, because they're in the kinky sex and orgies and whatnot. Previous members of that I know of are the actor, what's his name, the English idiot who was in Notting Hill.
Who, Mandelson?
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant, right?
Yeah. You know him?
Yes,
he was a member, as was Ed Balls, who was high up in the British government until he lost his seat. He's married to a top government minister at the moment. Bismarck, I forget his first name.
Godfrey von Bismarck.
Yeah, he was a member. He was a heroin addict, and supposedly HIV positive as well. He was a member. A lot of people died of drugs.
Right.
When you're rich, it doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to matter. You can get away with anything.
Yeah, I mean, you read through the book, it's just like every next person or every third person died of a drug overdose or something like that. And it was Gottfried von Bismarck was related to the German von Bismarck family.
That's it. Yeah.
But one of the names that popped up in that chapter of your book was Mandelson, because I didn't know much about him, but I knew of him through researching. There's a picture of him and Jeffrey Epstein in the Caribbean. Can you talk a little bit about Mandelson?
Yeah. He also appears in the final chapter of The Filthy Rich. There's a list compiled by Dr. Joan Forford, who helps victims of sexual abuse. And on that list, Peter Mandelson's name appears on that, and he's accused of murdering a 17-year-old boy after torturing him. Mandelson, what can you say about him? He's been drummed out of the government at least twice and allowed back in for wrongdoing. Homosexual, paedophile as well. Sue me if I'm lying. And good friends with the Rothschilds. In fact, he's a Rothschild's puppet, as well most of them, of course. And yeah.
Right. I mean, you claim. Well, you claim that he was a member of the Order of Nine Angles and something called the Alpha Lodge. I've never heard of the Alpha Lodge, but he's into black magic, right?
They all are. You know yourself, Bill. I mean, you do audio call. I don't need to tell you. You don't get nowhere unless you're a member of the Satan Occult Club. You know.
Right. Yes.
You have to be, and they all are. When you talk about the occult, especially among heavy metal music fans, you know, they sort of embrace it, but they don't understand the real evil implications of real satanic occult, you know?
Right, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You put in a little quote from the Book of the Law, Aleister Crowley's book, and, you know, there it is. Kings shall be kings of the earth forever, and the slave shall serve.
That's right. Well, Aleister Crowley was the manager of the founder of the real occult, really, wasn't he?
I think so. I think
evil man, same MO, paedophile.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
They all are,
yes.
And of course, being a paedophile in these circles, as you will know, it's not so much about their love of raping children. It's all about power and control and whatnot, you know.
I agree. What is the Alpha Lodge? I'm not familiar with that.
I don't know. What page is that on, mate? Do you know?
It was chapter 6. You were talked about Mandelson being part of the Order of Nine Angles. You talked about neo-feudalism and debt enslavement. That's like your standard satanic political approaches, particularly Crowley too. But you talked about James Rusbridger and the connection between Mandelson and Dominic Strauss-Kahn. Do you remember that part of it?
I don't know. No, I'm just having to flip through here now.
That's all right. I mean, you guys have had some real other pedophiles that were high up in political power, and they got away with it. Leon Britton and Greville Janner.
Yeah, you know, they said that Greville Janner, when he was first accused back in the 90s, and then miraculously cleared, he got a standing ovation in the House of Commons. You know, that he sort of beaten his rap, and then 20 years or so later, it turns out that it was all true what they were saying about him. But he couldn't go to court because of his age, and he had dementia and whatnot. But that doesn't seem to matter if you're a Nazi war criminal, of course. But when you're a politician, you know, it gets you off scot-free. And then, of course, before anything else came about it, he died, as did Leon Britton. You know?
So a lot of those guys, and you've had the BBC pedophile scandal. It's just almost all of these people are faking their death or pedophiles. It's just grotesque. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, over here, they said the BBC stands for the Buggering Boys Club, man. Yeah, you had Jimmy Savile,
Right?
Who was very good friends with well, originally he was introduced to Prince Philip by Lord Louis Mountbatten. Mountbatten brought Prince Philip up, him and his father, George Mountbatten. They were prolific predatory paedophiles, you know. But he introduced Jimmy Savile to Prince Philip, and in turn, Prince Philip introduced him to Prince Charles. Now,
right. Yeah,
what our royal family could possibly have in common with a flamboyant, bleached blonde, long-haired disc jockey is anybody's guess, but there you go.
Yeah, I mean, apparently Savile had a free pass just to walk right into the palace, right? No questions asked.
And they reckon that he was shagging dead bodies. He had the keys to Broadmoor Mental Hospital, which is the highest, most secure medical facility in England, which all the high-profile murderers who have been deemed insane are sent to. He had the keys there, and then he had his own room at St James's Hospital in Leeds, where he was masquerading as a porter, wherever he was shagging dead bodies and whatnot, you know.
No, it's incredible. And he was at Thatcher's. I think you wrote he was at Margaret Thatcher's Christmas party for 11 years in a row.
He stayed over the New Year with Margaret Thatcher for 11 years in a row. And of course, Margaret Thatcher's government was absolutely riddled with paedophiles.
And well, for the American audience, who was Derek Lord?
Derek Lord. Now, Derek Lord is a very, very dangerous man indeed. He was Margaret Thatcher's speechwriter, and he did have a go at becoming an MP, but was beaten by a fellow called Bertie Grant for the seat. He's also very good friends with David Cameron, ex-Prime Minister, so much so that he even went to his wedding. And now people are distancing themselves from him because he's been named a number of times as a dangerous paedophile. He's a black man who speaks very, very posh, and at the time, the Conservative Party was very racist at the time that he was working for Margaret Thatcher in the mid-80s to the mid-90s. They embraced this well-spoken black homosexual fella with open arms, you know. And there are reports of him putting boys in hospital, having buggered them, with internal injuries and whatnot. He actually said, he called me certifiable and said no one actually believes what I've written about him. But unfortunately for him, a lot of people did believe exactly what I've written about him, and he fled to South Africa for a number of months.
And is he still involved in conservative Tory politics in the
UK? No, blimey, no, they won't touch him with a barge pole. I mean, all references to him on pages, Wikipedia pages like David Cameron's and that, all references have been erased because no one wants to be associated by him now. He was writing for a British newspaper, and I actually wrote to them, sending them my evidence, saying, this is the man you got writing for. I believe he no longer writes for them. And certainly in South Africa, he was involved in a leisure company. And a journalist friend of mine got in contact with them, a South African journalist friend of mine, got in contact with them, once again passing that evidence on, and he was removed from the board of directors.
Remarkable. Why do you think that these pedophiles have gotten away with this injustice for that long there? And these are operations that involved a lot of boys' homes and vulnerable children. How do you think this just went on? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, they get away with it because they're all there at the very top, and this includes the police. The top policemen, they're all into this satanic worship and whatnot, and things are covered up. Leon Burton, take it. I was contacted by a journalist who worked for the Sun in the 1980s, who told me that Leon Burton had been arrested for raping a boy. Had been arrested for raping a boy. And while he was still at the police station, the security services came in and ordered his release.
Wow. Yeah. So they're all, and you had these operations that were like pedo operations, Operation Or, Operation Avalanche.
Which started in America. Now, names of those arrested under Operation Or were all given to or supposedly all given to the British police. By the American investigation. I can't remember what the American investigation was called, but it brought up all these names, and Tony Blair, who was then the Prime Minister, supposedly issued a D-notice to stop the press from reporting on the big names who were caught up, although some got out. I mean, Pete Townsend was supposedly caught up in Operation War. Another one, he got away with it. He said he was researching for a book by going on these paedophile, painting up on these paedophile sites. He was researching his book. Well, Pete, where's that book? Did you get bored with writing it or what?
Yeah, that was the guy from The Who, right?
That's the Who, yeah, who's the founding member.
Founding member.
And of course, the Who are mentioned in my book, The Filthy Rich, with Pete Lambert, who was their manager, another paedophile,
So Pete Lambert, and then his mom or his dad.
Pete Townsend, or Pete Lambert.
Right, so Constant Lambert was friends of Aleister Crowley, though, right? I think you wrote that.
That's right, yeah, that was his father, yeah.
What's the Fitzrovian Circle? I don't know what that means.
I don't know, mate. Is that in a reference that I've quoted from? Not written about by myself.
Say that again? I didn't understand that.
Well, was that... In the book, there's a lot of source references, because a lot of people will obviously turn around and say, well, anybody can say anything about anybody, especially if they're dead. So I use source references to back up all my claims.
Source references.
It might have been caught up in a source reference sort of used to show where I got the information from.
And you talked about David Litvinoff, and I'd heard his name when I was researching Donald Campbell. Why is David Litvinoff an important figure to understand?
Again, that's the spy, isn't it?
David Litvinoff was like the guy, I think he was like a hoodlum, right? He was like a London underground guy?
Involved with the craze and whatnot. Yeah, I think you'll find that comes from the article that I added to, which was written by somebody else.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. And because it's interesting too, because that's like another tie to Crowley was Donald Campbell
and Anthony Stokes. I think it's in that chapter, Death of a Whistleblower.
Gotcha. And I mean, I didn't know that the crates trends are all over the place, blackmailing people, and they are a very important underground criminals there that were also both pedophiles, right?
They were both pedophiles, yeah. Supplying to the rich and famous, and then using them to using that information and filming that they had on them to blackmail people like Lord Boothby and Tom Dryburgh.
Right. And so they're all having these parties together. The Tom Dryburgh is Labour, Boothby is Tory. And they're all trolling for little kids. Yeah.
Having voice between themselves, yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I covered those two characters in my book, Children of the Beast. Because Dryburgh, for people who don't know, was supposed to be, at one point, Crowley's heir. So he was supposed to carry on the great work for Crowley. And there's kind of a vignette of Dryburgh going to, after Crowley died in 1947, Dryburgh went to the executor, a literary executor for Crowley named Simons, and took his oath. He had a written oath to do the work of the Great Beast, and he took it and burned it. So he went back and made sure that wasn't left for history. But Simons recollects that in one of his books. But yeah, so Dryburgh was always kind of, like many of the people who admired Crowley, secretly in contact and secretly writing things about them. But Dryburgh is an interesting character. I mean, what's your impression about Dryburgh as somebody from the UK?
Well, he's typical politician, mate. I say back then they was blackmailed into doing one of the people who really call the shots, the people behind the curtain. And nowadays they're manoeuvred into position because of who they are and what they do. And there's no doubt, it's just a matter of public record now that Tom Dryburgh was a predatory paedophile, as was his folk friend Robert Boothby, who was very close to Winston Churchill. Now, Winston Churchill is now being accused of being a paedophile as well. And this is how far back he goes, Boo. He goes all the way back. Because, as you know, the government figures, they're just puppets. They're not, they have no real power. They just do the will of, the families like the Rothschild and whatnot, who wield the real power in the world.
Well, it's interesting here. We had the fourth in line the third in line to the presidency here. Denny Hastert was a convicted pedophile, went to jail. So he was really far up in the government under Bush, but got caught making payoffs or trying to structure payoffs. And so I don't think it's something specific to the UK for sure, but you've had some people.
It's worldwide, mate. It's world. All first countries. Politicians, they're all pedophiles, and they all have skeletons in their closets, and you don't become a politician unless you're a part of the club, but that's all they are. They're just puppets. They don't wield the real power, what a politician there is, a front man for the people who really rule the world,
Right, so if this person is totally corrupt, that's the ideal functionary, right?
If you're Prime Minister or a President, you're guaranteed to be totally corrupt and 100% a puppet.
Yeah, didn't Cameron he was a Bullingdon boy, but he was all kinds of involved in drugs, but also wasn't there like a rumor of him performing a sex act with a pig head?
Yeah, which is not a rumour, it's a true fact. And this is one of the initiations that they're supposed to undertake to be able to get into the Bullingdon Boys Club,
Oh, I didn't know that.
It wouldn't have just been Cameron.
So it's every one of the persons in the Bullingdon Boys Club has performed this same type of act.
Same as the Skull and Bones over at Harvard, Is it Harvard or Yale? I forget which.
Does the Bullingdon Boys Club, did they have like a lodge? Did they have like a place where they meet? Or is it always just moving from restaurant to restaurant?
I don't know. I suppose they had like what you call a frat house.
Frat house.
It's an exclusive club. Just because you go to Wheaton doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be invited to join the Bullying Boys. But
do you know the size of the membership at any given time? Is it like 200 or 300 people?
I have no idea, but in the Filthy Rich, there's at least a page and a half of famous names that have been members.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a long list.
Yeah. It includes kings and
right.
Yeah, prominent politicians and whatnot.
It's remarkable, and those guys. That's how they all bind themselves, is by the secret agreements and secret things that they know about each other. So they're all blackmailing each other, probably, because they know what they've done.
All the blackmail to sort of do the bidding of their masters, you know. We should say includes over here the Rothschild family, as it does over in America, you know, and France, of course. There's a Rothschild pulling the strings of all of them. In fact, right. Many members of the royal family do in fact look like Rothschild, you know, more like Rothschilds the Windsors. Interesting.
Well, the guy that's there now, the head of France, literally worked for a Rothschild bank. Emmanuel Macron was an investment banker for a Rothschild bank.
Yeah, same as what's his face who gets carried around and around here. I'm terrible with names for long. Honestly, I should know. Nigel Farage.
Oh, really? He's got Rothschild.
He was a Rothschild banker.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised to hear that at all. Wow. So we're at about 40 minutes. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Anything that I missed, or?
It's like I say, Bill. You know, I could talk for hours and hours, and have done on this subject. You know, it all depends how far you're talking about David Cameron. Now, David Cameron's first child, who was severely disabled, supposedly died. In the book, the details of his death are in the book, and it's speculated by some that he killed him. Now, you look at how many politicians, their firstborn, have died, and it's well above what would be, you know, classed as a national average. You know, same with actors. You know, the amount of actors whose firstborn child has died. Now, it's said that to really be in with the satanic occult, you have to kill your firstborn, or your firstborn has to die. You know, wow. And you look at the huge list of politicians and actors whose firstborn have died, and you've got to wonder whether there's really something in there.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing. I mean, your book is properly titled "The Filthy Rich" because it's just so much filth. These are all names at the top of British society. British political society.
I names. I don't. You know. Let's not. I'm not being around the bush here. People can come and sue me if they like, but it's all backed up by you know, sources where I get the information from. You know, I don't just pluck these names out of the top of my head and say, oh yeah, he's a paedophile, and it's all backed up with evidence, you know. Yeah. And you read the book, and it really does make for harrowing reading, especially in my opinion, the last chapter, which I say is a name of satanic sexual child abusers who was piled by Dr. John Crawford. And it's the same names that appear time and time again. And you're looking at, you know, household names on that list.
Gotcha. Okay, so the book again, the title is The Filthy Rich by Chris Spivey, published in February.
It's published by Christopher D. Spivey.
Christopher D. Spivey, right? So there's a few Chris Spiveys.
Search bar, yeah.
Right,
Christopher D. Spivey.
Okay, and then your website is www.chrisspivey.org, CHRISSPIVEY.org. There's a lot of articles and material there.
Yeah, there's articles on their I don't know how to blow my own trumpet, but they will blow your mind.
Yeah, sounds good. So people go check out that website. Again, the book again is Filthy Rich by Chris Spivey. Mr. Spivey, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.